Okay, I'm back, and now we want to talk about how do geologists study rocks. Well, they study rocks in the field, and then they study rocks in the laboratory. So what would they be looking for when they're studying rocks in the field? Well, the first thing is, well, what kind of rocks are they looking at? So they go out there with their bottle of acid and their geological hammer and their hand lens, and so they pick up the rock, they start looking at its texture, they start looking at the minerals that are in it, and they have a pretty good idea for what kind of rock that is. But normally they would take a sample of it back to the laboratory just to make sure. Okay, another thing is, what's the position of the rocks? So for example, sedimentary rocks, when they form in flat layers. But then what can happen is that through geological processes, those layers can be tilted. So a geologist is going to be interested in knowing exactly how much are they dipping and in what direction are they dipping. And then from that, they can come up with theories as to is this rock part of a syncline or an anticline. So we're going to find out later that an anticline is going to be shaped like this, and then a syncline is going to be shaped like that. And so when you subject sedimentary rocks to forces, they tend to be compressed like that. Well, if you find a piece of rock, let's say here's your piece of rock right here, and you measure it, you might notice that it is tilted. And so if you measure how much it's tilted, you might be able to infer what the shape of this anticline was. Okay, another thing is that geologists look for small scale structures. So that picture there is of a ripple mark. And so in the rock, you can see this wavy pattern, and that wavy pattern was created by flowing water. Ripple marks can also be formed by wind action. So you can infer by looking at that small scale structure that either the wind was blowing or that thing was on the bottom of a river, or possibly it was on the bottom of a lagoon or someplace where water was moving back and forth, and it made those ripple marks. Then the fourth thing there is large scale structures. So when a geologist is in the field, they look around and they look for the large scale structures such as the synclines and anticlines. Other things that they look for is volcanoes. That tells you that this is an igneous area. They look for places where the magma has cut across sedimentary rock. So we're going to call that an intrusion, and we'll learn about that in a later lesson. So geologists are very much interested in large-scale structures too, because that tells you something about the geological history. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how can light be used to identify minerals.